What's up guys, JoshBarracks here back with another two-handed warrior PvE video. But today we're going to be doing something a little different. Since I began this series of videos around two-handed fury warriors, I've been getting a lot of questions about how I play my character, such as what talents do I use, what am I wearing, and how exactly do you use this build in raid. So today we're going to be answering those questions as we take an in-depth look at exactly how I play my two-handed fury warrior in raids. Keep in mind that this build will only work for those on Horde side, as it is reliant on Wind Fury Totem. If you guys want to see more videos just like this, or have any more questions about my PvE build, please let me know in the comments section below. Also, if you enjoy, make sure to bloodthirst that like button and subscribe to my channel. Also guys, we are still doing the weekly Discord Nitro giveaways or $5 PayPal giveaways every single week in my Discord. To enter to win, all you have to do is join my Discord. I'm going to leave that link in the description below. Let's begin with the talents that I use. So the overall talent spread that I use is 31 points in Fury, 20 points in Arms. Pretty much any guide you see online is going to have that same stat allocation per tree. It's just the most viable in terms of getting down to two-handed weapon specialization and impale. So I do 5 out of 5 cruelty. That's not really negotiable. Everyone does that. But I do 5 out of 5 booming voice versus a lot of people that do the 5 out of 5 unbridled wrath. Then I come down here and I do the 5 out of 5 battle shout improved, giving myself a little bit more attack power. 2 points in improved cleave. 5 points in enrage, 2 in improved execute. And remember, you guys can pause the video if you guys need to take a look around at each individual tree to slow it down. 1 point into death wish, 5 points into flurry, and 1 point into bloodthirst. Now there is some wiggle room that you can do in here, but we're going to get to that in just a second. Back over to the arms tree, I do 3 out of 3 improved rim, which is pretty mandatory, especially since you have to get down to deep wounds. And 2 out of 3 improved heroic strike. You don't need deflection. If you're pulling aggro, that's a problem in and of itself. And not only are you probably going to die if you pull aggro, but the whole raid will too. So just make sure we're watching that threat meter. 5 out of 5 tactical mastery. That's a must-have. And then down here we have anger management, 1 point, 2 points in improved overpower, and then the 3 points into deep wounds. And then the last part of the arms tree that we're going to do is we're going to do 2 out of 2 impale. It's a great skill. You can't go wrong with it. Tons of extra damage. And then finally 2 points into two-handed weapon specialization. Now, okay, so now that you guys have seen what I do, let me show you where you might have a little wiggle room with this build. So coming over to the arms tree, because there's less really to talk about, there's only one thing that you can do. There's one thing that you can do differently than what I have set up here that might still be viable. Instead of putting the second point into overpower, some people take a point out of this and allocate it into two-handed weapon specialization for the extra 1% damage. The reason I don't do that is because that second point into overpower increases the critical strike chance of overpower by 25%. It's a huge margin. However, I see why people would want to go 3 points into two-handed weapon specialization, because at the end of the day, the majority of your damage does just come from regular melee attacks, wind fury damage in this spec in particular. Bloodthirst, just regular damaged attacks. You'll find out more or less that overpower becomes hard to use when you're generating as much rage as you will be currently, and will be like, say, in AQ40 and max. So I may at some point switch over from 2 here to just 1, and then a 3rd point here. But currently, this is the way I have this set up. Now over to Fury, there is a little bit more wiggle room that you can do. So the reason I have booming voice and battle shout both 5 out of 5 is because I don't have a 100% guarantee that I'm gonna have another warrior in my group or party. Specifically, it has to be in your party to get that battle shout buff. I don't have that guarantee that they're gonna have this improved battle shout right now. So because of that, I'm making sure that I get that 3 minutes duration of battle shout with the maximum attack power bonus that I can get. However, if there was another warrior in your group that every single week, week in and week out, was dedicated to having an improved battle shout up, then you wouldn't necessarily have to do this. Instead of doing the 5 out of 5 booming voice, you could do 5 out of 5 unbridled, because unbridled wrath is going to give you an extra rage point, not only on your regular melee attack, but let's say any wind fury that procs, it can give you an additional rage point. It is not super crucial to have this, so don't think of it as a requirement or that you're missing out hugely if you do have to go booming voice, but it is something that a lot of min-max players do. They get one warrior with this, and then the rest of them go unbridled wrath, just for that additional rage point every once in a while. So keep that in mind that that's an option. But here is where the big wiggle room kind of area comes in. I have 2 points in improved cleave that I don't need to get to the second tree, the second row. The reason I'm doing this is because I want that additional damage, that bonus damage, to be increased a little bit. But do keep in mind that improved cleave does not increase base damage done when using cleave. So your regular attack isn't what's affected. What it is affected is the bonus damage that stacks when you do cleave, right? So if you look at cleave, it does weapon damage plus 90. So the 90 is what is affected by improved cleave. So it's not a huge number, but it is a number. And I use cleave a lot in MC, and that's really all. I mean, that's the only thing that we have right now, right? So it is something that I see a little bit of a benefit to. But what you could do instead of this is you could take the 2 points out of improved cleave and do 1 into piercing howl for, you know, those kind of oh shit situations where you have to get out of something. And it also makes you more viable in the real world, right? So you could put 1 point into piercing howl and let's say 1 point into improved intercept, just to get you that intercept back a little bit quicker, or just anywhere around here you guys could put an extra point. So those are the options that you have with this, but more or less this is the build that I use in every video that you guys see of mine. Up next, let's take a look at the gear that I use to hit certain stat requirements, like the hit percent chance, and then obviously stacking crit and AP and raid. So right now I am in my PvP gear. I'm going to go over to item rack and I'm going to switch over to my PvE set. So before we look at the actual gear, let's look and just kind of expand upon those stats that I just mentioned. So in PvE, you need 9% hit. 9% hit is everything. It makes sure that your yellow attacks don't miss. And without 9%, your DPS is going to drop off tremendously. Okay, guys? If you don't know why it's 9%, you can kind of like look that up. You can Google it. It's just based on the level of the mob that you're hitting. Okay? So 9% hit, 9% hit, 9% hit. It's just, it's so important. I can't stress that enough. After that, I prioritize crit first, then strength. And I mean, stamina's down there, but crit and strength, right? Like crit and strength right after hit. But of course, hit being the most important one. You'll notice I have 10% hit. You'll kind of see why in just a second. It's just the way that the gear that I have is set up right now. But yeah, just never go under 9. Okay, so to start, we have the Lionheart helmet. This is BIS for you the whole game. Get it. At this point in the game, guys, you really want it, especially going into BWL. It's just too good. I have the Anexia Tooth Pendant. This is the one's a little bit harder to get because, like, unlike the Lionheart helm, which you can just farm for. I say just farm. I know it's expensive. The Oni Tooth is tough because, you know, any melee needs it. It should be melee priority in whatever group that you're running, but a lot of groups roll for stuff. That's a whole other topic. But Oni Tooth Pendant, that's what I use. And then I use True Strike Shoulders for the 2% hit out of Ubers. I'm currently using the Dragon's Blood Cape because I do not have Cape of the Black Baron. That is my own fault. I've had everything else in the game, and then I started doing honor grinding. I never got my hands on Cape of the Black Baron, but you can get Cape of the Black Baron from Undead Strat. It's better for DPS than this, although this is a great cape. I got this off of Rag. Really good for tanking and for PvP. After that's Ogre Forged Hauberk from DM North Tribute. This is a great chest if you just have been unlucky and can't get your hands on the Savage Gladiator. I am currently at 162, I think. 162 arena runs. Still no Savage Glad. I've only seen it once, and I lost to a Hunter. GG's Hunter. But yeah, that's a really good one to use. After that, we have Battleborn Arm Braces. This is from Ubers. It is, I think it's Prebis. It's Prebis. So you can get your hands on something a little bit better. I want to say wrist guards of stability. Wrist guards would be a huge upgrade for me because I don't need the hit, and it's just they're just phenomenal. You get them off Mob and MC or Boss and MC. Boss is an MC. All right, and then I have the Devil Star combo. Until I get my hands on something a little bit better from MC, this is not a bad combo at all. In fact, it's really, really good. Get your hands on these. They're not that expensive, and it's totally worth it. After that, I use Omok's Girth Restrainer. This is a quest reward. I want to say from BRD. 1% crit is amazing. After that, I use Wind Reaver Greaves. I like the 20 agi on these. I know that the Bloodmail boots are technically BIS. I love these boots for just the pure crit on them. I'm a huge fan of these, and you get these from Skull Immense. After that, we have the Quick Strike ring. I got lucky enough to win these. Pretty fantastic ring from Molten Core. The Don Julio's Band, which is Exalted AV. Chance to crit, chance to hit, and some AP and some SAM. Blackhand's Breath, that's a Prebis trinket. You get that from, again, a BRD quest. I want to say it's BRD. It might be Uber's. I'm pretty sure it's BRD. And then last but not least, the Hand of Justice from the General and BRD. Yes. It took me 106 runs to get this one. So this is not particularly easy to get, as most people know at this point in the game. After that, we have Blaster Shot Launcher. It's a really nice crit gun that you can get out of MC. I actually, because I don't need the hit right now, and I have the Satyr's Bow, which has a hit % chance on it, I just pass on the Striker's Mark right now because it's just a bigger upgrade for others. And then last but not least, I have the Bone Reaver's Edge. And this is just everything right now. Prior to this, I used the Earth Shaker because I didn't win the OEB, which was fine and put me in a good position to get the BRE in the first place. So I'm pretty happy about how that turned out. But again, for any build, you really just want the highest top end that you can get. BRE has a great top end, so I'm very happy with that. Finally, guys, let's get into the bread and butter of this video, which is how do you use this two-handed Fury Warrior build that we have laid out. Now, again, this is a Horde only build, guys. So this whole thing is reliant on Wind Fury proccing off of Hamstring, which is gonna increase our damage, and it's gonna make it viable the way that we have it set up. If you're Alliance, you're gonna want to probably look up a Slam Spec video of some kind, but this is for Horde only. Okay, so the first and most important thing, guys, for all warriors, Alliance and Horde, make sure you have Battle Shout up. Without Battle Shout, your DPS drops off tremendously, so just keep that in mind. So to begin, we're going to talk about rotation. So what abilities to use first and when you're in combat. So we have our Battle Shout up. The first thing we're always going to want to use is Bloodthirst, guys. So if you have enough rage, or even if you don't have enough rage for Bloodthirst, you always want to use Bloodthirst first. If you're in a fight and you don't have enough rage for Bloodthirst, don't use Hamstring. And I would even say don't use Whirlwind. Wait until you have the rage for Bloodthirst. You'll probably have enough rage for both Bloodthirst and Whirlwind on your next attack. So first, you're going to open up with Bloodthirst, then Whirlwind, then you're going to be spamming Hamstring. Okay, the Hamstring is what is going to proc that Wind Fury totem, and then as soon as you have your Bloodthirst up again, you're going to use Bloodthirst and then Whirlwind. So let's show that here again. So we're going to open up. We're going to Bloodthirst first, Whirlwind, and then until this Bloodthirst comes back up, we're going to Hamstring, and then we're going to Bloodthirst again, And then until that comes up, we're going to hamstring. Now, obviously, we're attacking low-level mobs. We could execute, but for the sake of the video, we're not doing that. We're just showing you a rotation of abilities. So Bloodthirst first, Whirlwind, and then we're going to spam Hamstring while these come off of Global. And as soon as they're off Global, Bloodthirst. And now we don't have enough, we have enough Rage. We don't have either of them off a cooldown. We're going to go like that, okay? One more time. We're going to engage. We're going to wait. We're not going to use Hamstring. We're going to wait for Bloodthirst to come up. Now, it's never going to be this slow in Raid because we're going to have Raid consumables and so on and so forth. Bloodthirst, Whirlwind, and then Hamstring while those are on cooldown. And then Bloodthirst, Hamstring while these are on cooldown. And we're just going to execute that there. Okay, so lastly, I just want to talk about this really, really briefly because this is something kind of tricky that everybody has to kind of learn and practice. It's the use of Overpower. So there will be obviously opportunities for you to overpower in every raid when a boss or mob or whatever dodges. There is a very key thing that you want to keep in mind with Overpower. You don't want to switch stances out of Berserker stance if you have an enormous amount of rage. So I don't usually switch if I'm like 50 or 60 rage and up. Because yes, you will get a crit and Overpower, but you're going to lose a ton of rage by switching. And then you're going to be stuck in combat stance, or battle stance rather, if you switch over and then you get a big crit afterwards. If you crit as soon as you go into that stance, you have 60 rage now, you kind of feel obligated to stay there and dump the rage out. So just keep that in mind. Timing your overpowers is everything. Usually what I do to time that is I wait until after. So like say this enemy dodges. I wait until after my auto attack goes through. So you can see I have a swing timer. I'll wait. Let me switch stances. I'll wait until I auto attack. Then I'll switch stances. Then I'll overpower, auto attack again, dump if I need to, and then go back into Berserker stance. So you want to try to time your attacks out as well as possible so that you're not wasting rage. And then finally, a key point in all of this is if you get over, and this will happen a lot, guys, like almost every other engagement once you get geared. Once you get over 60, 70 rage, you want to, and you need to dump it, and you don't have your other abilities off of cooldown, use the mixture of Heroic Strike or Cleave to dump the rage. So instead of just letting your auto attacks go off, you're gonna queue up a Heroic Strike, you're gonna queue up a Cleave to kind of dump that rage. It'll increase your damage. It'll be yellow so that it won't miss. The reason you would use Cleave, you would even use Cleave on a single target if you're worried about threat. So say BWL comes out, you get to Veil, and you're just demonstrously ripping this thing a new one. You're not going to want to start queuing up a bunch of Heroic Strikes because you probably are going to rip threat. And then obviously on Veil, getting aggro is a group wipe. Is almost a guaranteed wipe. So there's a time and place for Cleave, and there's a time and place for Heroic Strike based on the threat you're generating. So just keep that in mind as well. Always keep an eye on your threat meter. But yeah, more or less that's it. You're going to be queuing up Bloodthirst first, then Whirlwind, and you're going to be dumping Hamstring until they come off of their global cooldowns. Another important thing we need to touch on, guys, is using Death Wish and Recklessness at the appropriate times, and making sure that you use them together. So before you use Recklessness, it's generally, and Death Wish, you kind of need to know how long it takes your group to down a boss so that you're not wasting any time. For instance, if you're fighting Magmadar and you know that your group takes 1 minute and 20 seconds generally, or 1 minute and 30 seconds generally to down Mag, then you're going to want to use Death Wish at 45 seconds into the fight, or 1 minute into the fight, so that Death Wish is utilized for every second that it's up, like every second that it's up, the boss is up, and that you have it during execute range. It is critical that you have this during execute range for every single boss encounter, regardless of whether or not you're using Recklessness. Now, so when using Recklessness, it's basically the same thing, but you have generally speaking, you're always going to use it around 20%, unless your boss is really, really squishy like Shaz. That like it only takes our group 60 seconds generally to down Shaz. So I might pop recklessness at 30%, and I would still have enough, because it's 15 seconds, I'd still have enough recklessness to go into execute range with my Death Wish, and then continue executing her and shredding her apart. But you want to make sure that you don't pop recklessness too early and that it fades while a boss is still in execute range. So timing that is really, really crucial. And then again, Death Wish, just not using it too early or too late. Like, you don't want to use Death Wish and then you end the fight and you still have 10 seconds left. I've been guilty of this even in one of my own videos, of having 10-15 seconds left of Death Wish after the fight, or even having Death Wish expire with 10% left of the boss still alive. It takes a lot of practice and a lot of group knowledge to kind of know exactly when to use each ability, but it is going to help your DPS tremendously. And then lastly on this topic is recklessness, and how you can, and even without recklessness, how you can increase your damage by a lot in every single boss execute range. So the method that you're going to want to do is, so going into execute phase, you want to store up enough rage, like even if it's just the bare amount, store up enough rage and execute. And then right after your very first execute and you're in execute range, as soon as you execute, use your mighty rage potions that you guys should be having anytime that you raid, and execute again immediately after. So so as soon as the boss drops to 19%, execute, mighty rage, execute again. Now you have 60 extra strength for 20 seconds. So you've attacked, so then you've executed, mighty rage, execute, and then after that execute, you should, with flurry up, you should be getting another auto attack coming shortly after that. So then you would auto attack, execute a third time in the span of 2 seconds, and then after that, blood rage, execute again. So you have these back to back to back to back executes, just chaining off each other, doing an enormous amount of damage. And then so you want to always do mighty rage potion first before blood rage. I generally save blood rage for execute range in every single fight that I do. But doing that little trick, and especially stacking it with Death Wish and recklessness, is going to bring your DPS to a really scary level at 20%. Just make sure to watch that threat meter, so you don't rip aggro off of a boss, because it's very easy to do, especially with recklessness, Death Wish, execute, mighty rage, execute, attack, execute, blood rage, execute again. So practice that, get that chain correct, and it's going to take you, it's going to bump you up in a very big way on your DPS meters. Now that we've taken a look at the strategy and what rotations to use during boss fights, I thought we would watch one of my videos of a boss fight and just kind of go over rotation. So you see, I just used Bloodthirst, then Whirlwind, and now I'm using Hamstring, and we're going to use Bloodthirst right after that because it came up. I'm at 100 rage, but I also just pulled an aggro. So I'm going to back up. I'm going to queue up a Heroic Strike, which was probably a mistake, and Bloodthirst to kind of rage jump, and then we're going to go back to spamming Hamstring. And now that Bloodthirst is up, we're going to wait for that to come up. We're going to Bloodthirst, Whirlwind, and go back to spamming Hamstring. We're watching our rage this whole time, making sure that we don't get too high. You see an Overpower, like he dodged, so I could use Overpower. I'm not going to use Overpower. I've noticed that I have an enormous amount of rage. I'm generating a bunch. I don't think it's worth it. You see it happens again. I'm not switching over. I don't think it's worth it because I'm generating so much rage and doing so much damage. So Bloodthirst, Whirlwind, back to spamming Hamstring. Now I'm using Death Wish because I know this fight's only going to last about 30 more seconds. I am up to 70 rage, so we're probably going to dump Whirlwind, then Bloodthirst, and then back to Hamstrings. We did switch over for an Overpower. If I could do it again, I probably wouldn't do that. Now we're going to pop Recklessness, and we're going to execute, and then Rage Potion, execute, Blood Rage, execute, and that's it. So it was just like what we were talking about with that execute range. We're going to execute first, potion, execute, mighty rage, execute, and do just an enormous amount of damage that quickly. You kind of saw what that looked like in a short burst. Lots of big numbers happen really quickly. So we're going to execute, potion, execute for 5k, blood rage, execute again. We auto attacked and we execute it again, and then auto attack, execute again. All that within such a short amount of time. You can see the buffs. This is without raid buffs, no Oni buff, no DM buff. So yeah, you can see it gets and you see how we ended the fight with 0 seconds of our death wish up. So we timed that perfectly. Recklessness faded right as the boss ended as well. That's kind of where you want to get to with death wish and with recklessness, and stacking those together. And then in just terms of the overall rotation, I think that was a good kind of showing for that. I did pull aggro there again, but you see I'm at 100 rage. I saw I had both abilities up, time to dump, time to Q heroic strike, and we go down to about 30, and then we hamstring until our primary abilities come back up. That's pretty much going to be it, guys. This is my first kind of tutorial or guide-esque video, so I hope that it was helpful in some ways to you guys. I know, like I said, we've been getting a lot of questions about how this is used, and I hope that this answered those questions. If you guys did like the video, please, again, let me know in the comments. I can do more of these types of videos if you guys do like. And then also, once again, please, guys, if this video was helpful and you enjoyed it, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and even share it with another warrior friend of yours that maybe is doing 200 DPS and could use a little bit of help. Thanks again, guys, and until next time, see you later.